Prendergast and Robin Shenfield Bouchard. I'm lucky enough. She's an Aussie, but I've got her now. She's in Canada. She married a Canadian, so she landed in my doctoral program, and I am very, very lucky to have her. So, Robin, I was talking about this project 3 years ago in Singapore, and it's finally done. Well, at least the publication part is done. So we're launching this over at the, I was going to say cricket club, but it's not. It's the Lawn Bowls Club. So you can take a look at this. That's the printed copy, but it is an ebook. So anyway, let's get started. The first part, our introduction, which is quite brief. We'll tell you a little bit about the project for those who haven't heard about it before. And then the second part is the fun part, where we're actually going to do a little bit of readers' theater. So I'm going to ask for 7 readers, right, Robin? So. Yes, okay, awesome. Let's begin. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Our presentation today will discuss a small-scale interview study with the objective of finding out what experienced secondary level drama teachers, how they responded to reading parts of a newly developed curriculum for performance studies, which is web performance. The curriculum was developed with funding from the Social Sciences and Humanities Research Council of Canada and the University of Victoria between 2013 and 2017. Entitled Web of Performance, an Ensemble Workbook, the curriculum was written collaboratively by a writing team consisting of 6 doctoral and postdoctoral research assistants and the principal investigator, Monica. The workbook is also co-edited by Monica Prendergast and Will Bickler.
While the writing team was revising the curriculum for publication, I became interested in finding out how drama teachers might respond to the invitation to work with this new resource, which was always intended as a curricular intervention. Working with graduate student research assistant Robin, an Australian drama teacher now living in Canada and pursuing her doctoral studies with me, we carried out interviews with 7 experienced dramatic arts teachers in and around Victoria, British Columbia in the fall of 2016 and the spring of 2017. Each teacher was asked to read 1 draft chapter of the workbook. This decision was made due to the understanding that asking busy teachers to read the whole guide, which totals approximately 60,000 words, was just not realistic. So reading 1 section gave each teacher the chance to explore a performance studies topic in a focused manner.
In our presentation today, we will offer an overview of performance studies and the performance studies curriculum development. Next, we will consider how curriculum in performance studies opens up the field of drama education to a more broad-based exploration of performance and develops students' performance literacy as an important 21st century ability. Lastly, we will share our thoughts from the interview drama teachers who are largely unfamiliar with the field and the content of performance studies and reflect on both their enthusiasm and trepidation of this curricular shift.
So, performance studies and curriculum. To begin, we're living in a highly performative society. People perform. We saw a performance today, those wonderful young people. They perform in both real and virtual spaces, as do their technologies, cultures, societies, economies, and politics. This degree of immersion in performance offers a number of salient questions for consideration. So these are the research questions that drove my project. What are the intellectual, emotional, and physical effects, both positive and negative, of living in such a performance-driven world? And I'm mindful of the weaving through of the show this afternoon of the kids coming on and doing the hashtag, right? That everything's got to be performed in that way. How is the field of education responding to the fact that we are immersed in multiple and complex dramas and performances on a daily basis? And I don't need to tell you that that's what the news has felt like for the last, ever since the Trump election in America. Just felt like an ongoing circus of performances. What might a senior secondary and junior post-secondary level curriculum in performance studies offer young people ages 16 to 20 as a way to develop their performance literacy, to individually and collectively investigate and engage with performance as a personal, collective, cultural, and socio-political event?
Performance Studies curriculum, designed and written in response to these overarching research questions, consists of 7 thematic units to be explored by students in the form of a performance creation ensemble. Performances play, ritual, healing, education, identity, power, and everyday life. Each unit or chapter offers an overview of key theories, followed by a consideration of how this performance topic has been taken up by theatre and performance artists, both past and present. Each chapter also offers invitations for ensemble performance activities based on the material covered. The workbook is published as a free open source ebook, and as such there are dozens of links throughout the guide that invite readers to visit websites, to watch videos, and to find out more about the ideas and people being presented in the book.
There's a lot of Canadian content in the book, but it also has a lot of international examples. So this senior, secondary, junior, post-secondary level performance ensemble-based curriculum invites youth to more fully participate in the critical cultural conversation via the sharing of their collaborative work in classrooms and communities. The new curriculum directly addresses this current need for a more robust form of engagement via an inquiry into the potential of performance literacy to become a key concept in curriculum studies and pedagogical praxis that is rooted in the field of performance studies.
Interestingly, the fields of theatre and performance studies have paid little attention to the notion of performance literacy. Theatre and performance scholar Janelle Reinelt theorises performance literacy as recognising that visual images and embodied practices, cultural memories and momentary localised fads all constitute the languages of sociality, the communicative pathways of contact and comprehension in all cultural production.
We agree with Reinelt that performance literacies should have rich cultural content and be attentive to languages of the stage, visual imagery, and think about the show we saw this afternoon. It's quite interesting to map this as a kind of performance literacy case study. So the languages of the stage, visual imagery, embodied practice. I loved how those young people were in their bodies. What a treat that was. Cultural memory and local interests and trends. So all of those things that Reinelt suggests are what are needed in performance literacy was in that performance. Encouraging and enhancing student pathways of contact and comprehension in regard to cultural production has shaped our working definition of performance literacy, which is this. Performance literacy involves the development of a range of abilities and skills that are required to enter into, engage with, make sense of, and meaning from, and respond to performance experiences in cultural, educational, interpersonal, and socio-political contexts.
I'm sure a lot of people in this room are quite familiar with performance studies, but if you're not, it is an established multidisciplinary field that invites critical and cultural analysis of a broad range of topics through the lens of performance. Performance studies asks questions like, what is being performed, for and by whom, for what purposes, to what effect? Questions along these lines can be applied to cultural performances such as drama, dance, music, spoken word, film and video in fruitful ways, and it can equally be applied to topics in many domains such as politics, and like I was of course talking about the news cycle and everything that's happening in the US right now, economics, sociology, anthropology, philosophy, linguistics, health and wellness, gender studies, communication studies, and of course education. Performance studies is as much a method, a way to understand, as it is a polydiscipline.
My intention in developing this new curriculum has been to offer Canadian and other international young people additional curricular pathways to the current predominantly music, dance, or theatre-based ones, to foster their understanding of performance in a more broad-based way, both in secondary education and beyond. The new curriculum is also intended to provide enrichment to the professional development of secondary and post-secondary level performing arts educators.
So in the fall of 2016, we received ethical approval from the University of Victoria to carry out the study. 7 teachers were selected and approached to participate, and to add a light, all 7 said that they would, which was rather nice. Teachers were chosen to broadly represent the diversity of school types and districts in our local area. Teachers were selected from 3 public school districts plus 3 independent schools. 4 of the participants are male and 3 are female. All have many years of drama teaching experience, ranging from about 15 to over 30 years. Semi-structured interviews were held in person at the teachers' schools or in Monica's office at the university, and one was held via Skype.
Our analysis of the interviews is presented in dramatic form as a script, also called a transcript, a term coined by Melissa Common-Taylor and Mariana Sutu-Manning in their book Teachers Act Up, Creating Multicultural Learning Communities Through Theatre. This arts-based research approach offers a resonance between subject, performance, and method, performative. It also provides a way of sharing participant teachers' thoughts that privileges their voices as we construct something new using the research materials we have gathered. As our intended readers and audience are drama education specialists and scholarly experts, we've chosen to explore the questions and teacher responses within the dramatic convention of overheard conversation, which is one of Jonathan and Tony's from structuring drama work. Our methodological choice here also allows us to bring the 7 participants from 7 separate interviews over a number of months into one imaginary space, thereby staging the excerpted interviews for readers, listeners, as a form of what Neil Verma calls theatre of the mind. We invite you to listen to these 7 teachers encountering a new performance studies curriculum and reflecting on it as a group of professional drama practitioners with significant experience. We have 5 minutes, which should be just long enough to read the excerpt. We chopped it down to make it very brief. And if we run out of time, we'll just stop. The good news is this paper has been accepted by RIDE, so you'll be able to read the full paper once we get the final yes from the thumbs up from RIDE. So I need 7 volunteers. Your part is highlighted. Good luck to you. Thank you. Thanks, May. Was that one there? Yes. And Dorothy said yes. Richard, thank you. Yes. Thank you very much. Thank you. Great. And this is your, oh, I need one more. Great. Thank you very much. Okay. So just a sample, just a taster of these teacher voices encountering this performance studies curriculum. So I'm the voice of the interviewer. What is your understanding of performance studies?
I thought it was the studying of different performance styles and performance opportunities. Kind of looking at the world we've evolved, that theatre is more than just looking into a box. I understood performance studies as being an intellectual course. After reading the chapter, I saw the application of that knowledge. Use this knowledge, use this information, and now go do something. I didn't have that knowledge before today. The knowledge we have at our school is like film studies. Going to study film, not doing it. It's inherent in the title, performance studies. It really should be performance practice.
You seem to have some understanding of performance studies.
Well, I've read Richard Schechner. That was way back. I give it to my students sometimes. I'm also interested in Eugenio Barba's work, the connection between theatre and anthropology. Very interested in that.
So a broader-based approach makes sense.
Absolutely. In fact, some of the research students have to do as one of their components in the International Baccalaureate Theatre Programme is to locate a piece of theatre that they might direct in its social, cultural, historical context. Which, of course, that's where theatre grows from. You can't divorce theatre from its social, political, cultural origins and context.
You can if you're not doing it very well. I actually said that in the transcript. I think you're probably going to be the only teacher in this small-scale study who has some familiarity with performance studies. Did you have any background in performance studies?
No, not really. No prior knowledge. I think I saw things in the chapter I read that look very familiar, but we don't necessarily use the same labels for different terms. This is a land I visited, but maybe there's some side roads that are really interesting that I never went down, and maybe now I'm seeing someone who's gone down these side roads and said, well, look at this what this person has found down this road, and look at what this lane showed us. I don't necessarily think I'm going to accept a dichotomy between old and new.
And what is your background knowledge, the term performance studies, and what that means to you?
Whenever I think of performance studies, I always think of anything that involves an audience. There's just so many different types of performance studies all across the globe, all across the world. Different cultures, different ways of doing it. For example, when I lived in the Arab world, it was storytelling. That was the art. Theatre was not even indigenous in the Arab culture. Performance studies depends on the culture you're living in and the environment you're living in. I just think in the Arab world it's had everything to do with story, where in Japan it was more about presentation styles. In Canada, I think most people will probably think of anything that involves an audience. Whether it's an internal audience or an external audience, someone is viewing something that you're doing.
Well, I'm familiar with Richard Skettner. I attribute him with the role theory of crossing over from me to not me, the not me that is brought along.
Yes. Do you have any background knowledge of the field of performance studies as an academic discipline?
No.
What are short answer. What are your responses and comments about the chapter? What did you think?
I thought it was interesting because I don't really have a background in using drama as therapy, as healing. I mean, I've read about it and I've heard stories of it. I did do this one workshop. It was during my master's program. It was a girl who was doing a video, and it was about immigrant children and their experience and their troubles at school with their family. It was a really interesting process to see. That's probably the limit of my interaction with this kind of drama, with healing or life experiences.
Who was this written for? I was very curious about that.
Our intended audience is 16 to 20-year-olds, senior secondary or even first or second year university.
Okay, then it makes more sense, because I kept thinking you haven't peeled the layers of the onion. I thought we need to go deeper, much deeper, in a theoretical and in a philosophical sense. But now that I know that the audience is high school students, I think it's great. I didn't know the audience before I read it. As I read it, I thought it's great for new teachers. Absolutely. I'm sure a lot may have heard of forum theatre, but won't know what it is. Now you're telling me it's written for students, then I think it's great. I like the personable side of it, that she uses I. I thought that was very welcoming.
I quite liked the chapter a lot and it got me thinking. But every once in a while I would find myself surprised that it was pitched at high school students. It felt sometimes it was pitched to the teacher. Like how you could use this, like how could you use this with your students? I found it quite inspirational. I actually circled certain things. It also got me realising that I do normally within the drama classroom. That what I do to establish some sense of control and monitoring, so that we're all working together. But really, it's about ritual. And the students value it because of the ritual of it. And it got me to think about different things. We do a warm-up and a little meditative moment where we say something to the circle, and then we start. I talk to some of my ex-students, we say things that do that in their own lives, capturing the ritual. I found that fascinating.
I looked at it and I thought, there's definitely some stuff in here that is going to make some interesting options for those kids who it's not doing a lot for in some situations. If I just started out, I would really grasp onto some of this and really run with it. I've got probably 3 years left, and I'm probably not going to do a radical shift in everything that I'm doing.
What responses do you have to the chapter that you read?
Well, it made me realise how deficient I am in my teaching, and that I'm still teaching mostly what I do behind a curtain. My response to the chapter, I could do more. I should do more. Take theatre outside of my theatre. That was my first response, because that is what's happening in the rest of the world. That's happening so much more. theatre in a parking lot?
Site-specific, immersive.
Well, that was my first response. A high school theatre program probably isn't responsive to the styles that were in that chapter. The second was the jargon, realising how much that could help me in devising lesson plans. What am I trying to achieve here? It was an opening up that I could do more. I was intrigued to know more and to realise that our high school programs don't reflect this. There is room for this.
Okay, we're going to stop there. It's a page left there, but we have to stop, so we've run out of time. But you get a sense of how we wove the individual transcripts into more of a conversation so that it becomes potentially a piece that's more enlivening. And you get a sense of these voices and the trepidation, but also the enthusiasm for this new curricular resource. Thank you so much, which we're going to launch over at the...
The link to the workbook here, if you do feel like downloading it, is just here, or you can use the nifty little QR code, which will take you right there.
Thanks to Robin, I don't know anything about it. But yes, the curriculum is entirely free, it's open source. My goal with this project was always to make this curriculum entirely free. Philosophically, I'm really trying to publish more open source. So you can buy a printed copy through my university for library collections, but it actually works better as an ebook because it has dozens and dozens of links that students can click on to find out more about an artist or a theorist or an idea that they're interested in.